Now let's get to trade. The Trump administration has announced it will place tariffs on $7.5 billion of imports from the European Union. The tariffs will be imposed on hundreds of products, from sweaters from the UK, Spanish olives, German coffee, Italian cheeses, planes, scotch. The tariffs would take effect as early as October 18th. Yahoo Finance's Jessica Smith joins us now from Washington with more on this back and forth. What's the chance that they will be averted before the 18th? What would need to happen?
It doesn't seem like this is going to be averted. There is going to be a meeting on October 14th with the WTO to finalize this. Senior USTR officials have said there will be no debate, no argument. They say that's just a technical requirement, and then those tariffs will go into effect on October 18th. You mentioned some of the items that will be hit with new tariffs. Want to hit a few others. Large aircraft will be hit with a 10% tariff. That's aircraft from Germany, Spain, and the UK, and that's not aircraft parts, just large aircraft. And then the U.S. is slapping a 25% tariff on other products, including Irish and Scotch whiskeys, French wine, European cheeses, some cookies, meats, coffee, and hand tools. Now, European officials have warned that a trade war between the EU and the U.S. would be damaging to everyone involved. The French finance minister said that it would be a political and an economic mistake, and the EU could put tariffs on American goods in response to subsidies given to Boeing. But U.S. officials say they're not concerned about that because they say the real problem is the European subsidies. But again, the Europeans are saying a trade war is going to hurt both Europe and the United States. But we'll see if they can get anywhere in the coming weeks and months. Again, officials say they're not concerned about Europe's retaliation. They say this has been going on for 15 years, and so far EU has not offered any serious solutions. What they want to see happen, what the U.S. wants to see happen, is these EU subsidies come to an end.
All right, we are going to talk more about this with the panel and the latest twist in the trade war. Steve, look, the Scots and cheddar is good enough for me. But the real issue here, does the United States appears to have the upper hand in this, because Europe, as bad as things might be slowing down here, I mean, we know manufacturing in places like Germany is already in recession.
I guess the point is it better to beggar your neighbor, or do you grow from trade? If you want to view it as a zero-sum game, a tit-for-tat game, yes, the U.S. has the upper hand. But to what end necessarily? I mean, at some point, I more believe in the free trade mantra. I think we all benefit from free and fair, responsible trade. I'm not sure that going after, Dutch Gouda cheese or my favorite brand of Scotch is going to be the way to do this. And also, by the way, Airbus is building a plant in the U.S., which will get them around these tariffs to a certain extent anyway.
And we're not even addressing the potential for the auto tariff situation. I mean, we're looking at a November timeline on this, are we not?
Yeah, but it's a separate issue here. So this is actually stemming from a dispute that was brought to the WTO well before President Trump was even in office, to be fair. So there were concerns on the U.S. side, I mean, Boeing probably specifically, that the EU was providing a favorable deal for Airbus at the expense of Boeing, which in a duopoly would make the U.S. pretty unhappy. I think the situation that's playing out here, though, is probably playing into Trump's hand, too. I mean, it's not like he didn't want any sort of tariffs on the EU, but it underscores a bigger issue, which is this going to be something that exacerbates the global slowdown, where we constantly hear that one of the biggest areas of concern is the Eurozone, specifically with Germany. I think to kind of hedge against that slightly, though, is the fact that China and the U.S. have been kind of on different paces in terms of their relationships with countries in the EU. I mean, in Germany, for example, the kind of biggest point of concern in the Eurozone, there's been kind of a race for who's in first place for biggest trade partner with them. At some points, it was the U.S. At other points, it's actually been China. So in Germany's case, I mean, if there were to be some sort of retaliatory tariffs from the U.S., what's to stop them from trying to turn to China here, right? So there's a lot of moving parts here as we kind of think about it.
At this point, between this European situation and the China situation, have the markets adequately priced in the knock-on effects of the trade wars at this point?
I'm not sure they have, and that's a problem, because I do think there's this residual optimism out there that this will all get solved, probably magically in November. We're going to learn a lot about this in a couple of weeks when the companies start start talking about earnings overseas. Today, I guess you could say Pepsi kicked off earnings season, but talk about a company, their growth was good domestically too. But as you start to get into multinationals that really rely on other parts of the world, they're going to give guidance and they're going to say, well, this is really going to, how this is going to affect their businesses going forward.
Anybody real quick want to take a shot at the president also talking about, because we have the trade negotiations with China, October 10th, saying that China should investigate the Bidens, Hunter and Joe Biden?
I was taught early on, when you're in a hole, stop digging, and he's got the steam shovel out.
Let's show you the steam shovel. Let's roll that sound.
China should start an investigation into the Bidens, because what happened in China is just about as bad as what happened with Ukraine.
I mean, it seems like the president is just throwing things at the wall at this point. I mean, he has had almost every imaginable reaction to this impeachment inquiry so far, and it just seems like he's just, I don't know, grabbing at threads here. I don't know if this is something that China is seriously. Why would China help him out in this case right now?
Well, it becomes highly problematic if that comes into the trade negotiations on top of what's going on with Ukraine, to state the obvious.
And I tweeted something out yesterday, but I worry that if the market starts to sell off again today, we're going to get the president blaming the Fed again, and it's just constant distraction.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.